you ready for this? All right. The statements issued by hosts, co-hosts, guests, and anyone else appearing on the show do not reflect the stance of the College of New Jersey or the NJDOE OSE. Please use your professional judgment when implementing strategies and resources within your practice. All right, welcome to the first episode of the TCNJ AT Talks podcast and its affiliation with the Assistive Technology at TCNJ. This podcast we put it together to help inform, educate, empower listeners, and let people learn about assistive technology. My name is Brian Kenyon. This is Vanessa, and this is Madison.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm going to give a little introduction about myself. I have a company called Kenyon Learning and Consulting. I do assistive technology evaluations and training with students and adults, and I've actually worked with students from the age of 3 all the way to actually 99, 100, 101. And one of the reasons I got into assistive technology was actually because of Vanessa. I applied for a job a couple of years ago, and she hired me, and I actually fell in love with doing this job. So that's a little about me. What about you, Vanessa?
So I'm Vanessa Lombardo. So I have been in the AT field probably about 20 years, which seems hard to believe, but is true. And similarly, worked with lots of different people with lots of different types of disabilities, lots of different kinds of needs. And I think the reason why I got into this field is really to think about the possibility, like what can technology help people do? I'm a big doer type of person and action oriented. So thinking about, helping people in terms of their independence, quality of life, and having tech help with that.
That's cool.
Awesome. Compared to these two, I'm quite a newbie in the AT world. I'm a speech pathologist by training. And I really got into AT working at a school for kids with complex communication needs in Manhattan. And I primarily have a lot of expertise in AAC and also AT. And I really, again, like echoing off of Vanessa and Brian, want to see what's possible for individuals with disabilities to use AT and see what new heights they can reach.
That's cool. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Assistive Technology Center at TCNJ. First, we want to start off with what's your mission and vision? Like, what do you guys see? Where do you want this to go? What's your ideas here?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we're a brand new program. We are funded through the New Jersey Department of Ed, Office of Special Education Programs. And the mission of this grant is to provide high quality and relevant professional development for K-12 educators, child study team members, related services, staff, paraprofessionals, families around assistive technology and augmentative communication. And so the goal is really around working with the adults who are the professionals, working with students, and really providing them with the tools to provide assistive technology to their students.
That's cool. Is there a cost to any of these professional developments?
No. So because of that funding from the Department of Ed in New Jersey, it is free, which is one of my favorite words.
Yes.
And so we're really excited to be able to provide all the PD for free and not having that be a barrier.
That's cool, yeah.
And I think just looking into the future, this inclusion model really highlighting having students be in the school system, included in all different kinds of environments and empowering professionals in the school, people that work with them to help support them with this technology, really looking at a future for what public schools in New Jersey can look like.
Mm-hmm. And to really have that collaboration piece, right? Thinking about, we know the tech, right? We understand the technology, but the teacher is the expert in terms of their students, their classroom, right? What is the curriculum? So to work collaboratively to ask the teachers, what is it that you are doing in the classroom? And then for us to come in and infuse some of the technology maybe into it, all kinds of different things, low tech or light tech, mid tech, high tech. But we really want to stress that collaborative piece when we're working with the school team.
Well, and I think that's one of the biggest things I see when I walk into a classroom is I work with the students mainly, and a lot of times I'm teaching the students, but the parents and the teachers aren't as involved. And something recently I've been trying to get the teachers and the parents involved more. But I think this is exactly what we need, right? We need the teachers to understand about what technology is available and out there, so then they can then harness that and use that for their students, right?
And really thinking about that implementation piece,
Yes.
that is one big focus. And I know we'll talk about more of that as we're moving through our episode today, but that is really our focus. There's the piece certainly about awareness, what technology is out there, and that is a small piece of it. But the larger piece is how do you implement it in the classroom, and thinking about utilizing all the different tools in a way that makes sense for implementation.
Right.
And how are you carrying that over throughout the school day, not just during the lessons? So really supporting those paraprofessionals in their work with the students.
And I think that also brings into, I was just thinking about was how do they also bring it home? Because a lot of these kids might use this for homework, right? Or even just for their everyday lives, right? Like this might become a part of their everyday. Like if we have something like Read and Write or another assistive technology that helps with spelling and things like that, how can they also implement that into their everyday life, right? Good. So you guys have a bunch of PD offerings, right? There's this ever evolving field of AT, and we were just talking about AI before we got on here, and there's all these different things that are available. So, and these are for school districts and families, correct? Mm-hmm. Madison, can you tell us more about your single day workshops?
Yeah, for sure. So we offer both in-person and virtual workshops. So our in-person model, it might look like us going to the specific school district, presenting on a specific assistive technology tool based on what the school district needs. So we do an intake call usually with someone from the school district, usually the director of special services or a child study team member, really talk about what that school district needs, what they're looking for training on. Because we don't just want to provide a, base level presentation that doesn't meet their specific needs. So really developing a presentation that's specific to their needs is really important. And then going to the school district, presenting that virtually or in person, like I said. We even offer them to come into our center here at TCNJ, if that is possible for them, to really get some more hands-on work with the technology. And in regards to the in-person workshops, that really incorporates that hands-on piece. We can bring the technology in, show them how it works, guide them through use and implementation with that. And Vanessa can tell you more about some of our other offerings that might have more of that one-on-one piece with the technology.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we do go out, as Madison had said, just to kind of reiterate one point, when we are in person, we want to make the opportunities as hands-on as possible. So again, kind of going to that implementation piece, but thinking about what is the district maybe already using, or we are introducing them to new tools, but then to have some equipment there, and we've been able to purchase some equipment to bring with us. So we're able to provide that hands-on piece, which I think would be really helpful. One of the other virtual opportunities is thinking about a series. So we just actually recently did a 6-part webinar series focused on augmentative communication. So we had someone who talked about...
Wait, what's augmentative communication?
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe I should pass that to Maddie to maybe
Maddie,
talk a little more as our SLP.
So augmentative communication, or AAC, augmentative alternative communication, is using different low/light, mid, or high technology tools to support communication. So that could look like a light tech communication board. It could be a mid technology device with buttons that have pre-programmed messages. It could be a high technology AAC device. Providing these professionals with training on how to use the student-specific maybe software program or maybe a mid-tech device with pre-programmed messages, really empowers that language development across the school day.
Cool.
So thank you for clarifying that, because in special ed we like to talk in acronyms, and it is helpful
Yes.
to be specific and explain them out. But this webinar series, because it was 6 parts, we were able to really move people through some of the very basic and beginning information. So sort of like a AAC 101, right? Obviously, what does it mean? What is maybe unaided, AAC, aided AAC? What do those terms mean? All the way through best practices for implementation, how to obtain different types of AAC devices, funding, stuff like that. So we were able to provide that webinar series. Again, all of the, as we had mentioned, in-person and the virtual options are free, but we are hoping to continue that webinar series with another topic. So thinking about collaborating again with other experts in the field, and being able to provide it in a series over time.
And providing those virtual webinar series on our YouTube channel, which we will plug at the end.
You can plug it now.
Okay, we can plug it now.
Why not? It's, what is it? AT Center TCNJ on
Yes,
YouTube?
AT Center TCNJ on YouTube, as well as on Instagram.
Right. Same thing, AT Center TCNJ.
Yeah, same thing. And providing those full webinars on there for people who want to review that information, or maybe weren't able to attend our virtual series and want to learn more about AAC.
Well, and let's just be honest. I go to YouTube all the time when I have a question about assistive technology, and I look for things like that. And so having it archived where I can come back later and see it. I mean, I even was just asking Vanessa about the AAC when I said, do you have it somewhere? I would like to brush up my AAC skills and kind of read more and watch more about it. And so that's something I've been doing. I've been going through the webinars and watching them one by one, and it's great to have that archive that so you can use it later, right?
For sure.
So workshops are great, right? But someone said it, foundational knowledge, right? You get the basics, right? But you guys have something that's more like coaching, correct? And so what's this coaching model? What are you going to do with districts? What are you going to do with coaching?
Yeah, really what we're hoping to do is think about how we can provide support on an ongoing basis, and really to help the district build capacity and also to build relationships with various people throughout the state. So the coaching model is intended to be in person for the most part, but we are open to it being hybrid. So we're sometimes at the district and sometimes we're checking in, but that we're providing ongoing support throughout the year. So thinking about, I was a teacher a long time ago, right? At the beginning of the year, we've got lots of enthusiasm, we've got lots of plans. And then sometimes we may forget about different things, or things go on the back burner because other things take priority. So this is a way to help teachers in terms of their technology implementation all year round. Potentially would meet with someone maybe monthly, maybe every other month, depending. It could also be a small group. It doesn't have to be a one-on-one type situation. Maybe there is an AT team at the district, so they might be doing some AT support, but maybe they need a little more professional development, so we're happy to come in and do that. But it's really to think about this follow along and building capacity so that at some point the district is really going to be able to provide a whole breadth of services to their students in their district.
And this is mainly for the teachers, right? This isn't, you're not going in and teaching the students, right, with this coaching model?
Correct. Right.
Okay.
So we're
Teachers,
providing
paraprofessionals. I really think about paraprofessionals.
Yes.
I have a coaching session actually later this summer in July, where I'm going in and providing that hands-on support to a team of paraprofessionals that are supporting the students during their ESY program.
That's awesome. And the paraprofessionals, they always get forgotten, but they're the main teacher to a lot of it, especially these one-on-one paraprofessionals are the main teacher to these students, and they might not have any education background. Some do, but because they might not have that education background, having this model where you guys can coach them and teach them about the technology they're using and the students using was really going to benefit the student in the long run, right? Because they're going to be the ones there.
They're the direct support and empowerment for that student to use that AT seamlessly.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
they're really in terms of front line.
Yes.
I think about that all the time. And Brian, as you
So
mentioned,
valuable.
they do get, I think, very underappreciated.
Oh, yeah.
And so that is something that we are hoping, right, with by providing these services, that we can really focus on paraprofessionals. A quick plug here, and we could put these in the show notes, but NJ CART, which is a volunteer
Yes.
organization in New Jersey, of all different kinds of AT and AAC professionals, they recently created modules on their website, which is njcart.org. They have created different modules specifically for paraprofessionals. Their videos, they're around 7 minutes long. Some are a little shorter, some a little longer. Some of the modules are around a specific tool. So let's say for an augmentative communication app like TouchChat, Proloquo to Go. Some of them are around the strategy, so things like wait time and prompting. And some of the modules are just kind of, again, general foundational knowledge, right? What is AT? What is AAC? Why is it relevant
Knowledge
to a
is power.
student? Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, so a plug there, and they're all free as well. And they're going to keep adding modules to their existing list.
That's cool.
But I think the paraprofessionals really kind of elevating them and providing them with some professional development is going to be really beneficial.
That's really
sure.
cool. And I think the one thing that stuck out to me that you was talking about was wait time. I see a lot where we're very quick to take over for the student because maybe they're processing the information that's coming through, and that's actually a big one for me, is slowing people down. Like let them try, give them 20 seconds. It's okay. It might take a little longer, but give them 20 seconds. You might get the answer you're looking for, or they might do whatever you're asking them to do if you just waited a little longer, right? Yes.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
I mean, and in terms of this coaching model, I mean, there's so many benefits, right? So many positives, that come out of it. I mean, obviously the successful implementation, as we had mentioned, but also the confidence of the person, whether it's the
Yes.
teacher, the paraprofessional. Sometimes I think that there is that hesitancy because someone will say, well, I don't know how to use this.
Right.
Right. And so, and as we had mentioned, and I do like to harp on the implementation piece because it's so important, but there's the piece of this is how you might change things, right? So there's the how to use the software. You click on this and it does this thing. And then it's how do I use it with the student?
What's my role? Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Right.
I think about specifically like one of the AAC programs, Lamp Words for Life. I know a lot of paras look at that program and they're like,
Overwhelmed.
what is this? There's
Yeah.
so much going on here. But if you really get to know the program, it's based in motor planning. That's how it's created, and it's less about necessarily digesting what all the icons mean as it is modeling in accordance with that motor plan.
And to your point, each AAC app is different, right?
Right.
It's structured in a different way. The language development behind it is different. So depending on the student's needs, it might
Definitely.
visually look the same or similar, but it's very different underneath.
Right. That's where that feature matching process goes into play for sure.
No, yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, that ends our talking about your professional development and what you guys are going to be having here.
I wanted to mention one other thing
Yeah.
before we move on from there, which is because we are housed at the College of New Jersey, we're able to provide professional development hours. So I did want to just make a mention of that because, all of us, we're both ATPs. We have professional development hours we have to complete. Teachers do as well. And of course, lots of other professionals. So through the School of Education, we are able to offer those PD hours for anything that is live. So whether it's a live webinar that you might attend and you're physically on the computer or on your device listening at that time, or obviously if we are in person. So we are able to issue you a certificate. And then if you're an SLP, we also can provide that through ASHA. So Madison, I don't know if you wanted to touch base
Yeah.
about that.
So
as well.
these, these webinars that we offer are eligible for ASHA professional development hours or PDHs. So how those differ from CEUs is that you have to track those on your own and submit them to ASHA. And there's more information about that on ASHA's website. If you Google it, you can find out how to exactly go about that. So we provide a certificate of completion, which talks about the, it'll tell you the date of the presentation or webinar and your name, and then you can kind of go from there based on the resources provided by ASHA.
Cool. Is there a certain amount of hours you need to get every year with ASHA, or is it over 3 years?
Yeah, it's a 3-year interval cycle. I think it's 30 credits, and usually it's like for CEUs, it's an hour is 0.1 credits. So
it's a lot. You have to do a lot.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
But that's good. Stay relevant and up to date with evidence-based practice and everything.
That's cool. Cool. Good. So we're going to be looking forward to future episodes. I think we have one of your former colleagues is probably going to be on. Communication.
That'll be fun. Colleague
access.
and friend.
Yes. Communication access and transition planning. That's something big I see a lot is what happens when the kid graduates high school or turns 21, right afterwards with their devices, with where they're going, with what they're doing, because a lot of it just kind of stops, right? And while we provide them all this care and help and all that stuff going up till 12th grade or 21 years old, all of a sudden it's just like, okay, let's see what's next, right? Good luck.
The services that are tied to K-12, cease. But we say this all the time. Every student who's in K-12 education becomes an adult.
Right.
And we want people to be as independent as possible, have the highest quality of life as possible.
Right.
And so we really want to make sure with that transition piece and that transition planning, that tech is a big piece of that, and that it's very clear and delineated out. So I'm looking forward to that conversation.
As well. And how can you use that tech even in the K-12 realm when they're in that older range, like 17 to 21, to empower them, to help them with EDLs and that kind of stuff.
Community-based instruction, all
exactly.
of that.
So we're excited for that conversation for sure.
And then there'll be a lot more than that too. Also, do you have an AT Summit coming up with Disability Rights New Jersey? When is that, October 7th?
Yes. So it's actually going to be here at TCNJ.
Okay.
We are very excited to partner with them. They have been running the AT Center for 8 or 9 years. And so now that we are, here and we know everyone over there, we're really excited for that partnership.
That's the ATAC, right?
Yep. Yeah. So Disability Rights New Jersey, they have the Richard West Assistive Technology Center. They are the ATAC, or the AT Grant Act for the state of New Jersey. So they actually work with people from birth to death in terms of AT. We're very focused on K-12 education here because of the Department of Ed funding in New Jersey. But yeah, we're very excited for this partnership. So it will be a full day of assistive technology and AAC. And so we're building the schedule now.
And you can find that information links in the bio.
Cool. Yeah, good. So if you want to stay connected with us, you can get us at atcenter.tcnj.edu. We also talked about the Instagram and YouTube. That's atcentertcnj. If you have any questions, you want to ask us anything, or you want to set up a professional development, you can email atcenter@tcnj.edu. We would love you to subscribe to this podcast and wherever you get your podcasts from. And we'd also love to hear if you'd like to send us questions. So we have a Google form on our website under the podcast tab, and you can fill out that Google form, or we would love to actually hear from you through a voice memo. We're using something called SpeakPipe, and you can send us a short audio message, and then we'll play it live on the podcast. So just tell us where you're from, what your question is, what your name is, all those kinds of things. And we're also going to have different segments every week. We might have a tip of the week going forward and things like that, where we're going to highlight different types of assistive technology. But right now, we're going to play a little game. So we need buzzers. Here's your buzzer.
All right.
And here's your buzzer. So we're going to play a little game or a little segment that I like to call...
Excellent.
All right. So if you didn't get that, this is called AT acronym attack.
Excellent.
So the rules are simple. I'm going to throw out an acronym. You have to press your buzzer. Do you guys want to practice real quick?
Sure.
Press it. Good. Perfect. The first one to buzz in and you have to tell me the
Gosh,
correct
I'm
full
nervous.
term. And if you can, give me a super quick explanation of why it's important. You get the point.
Okay.
Are you ready for your first ever AT acronym
My mind is going to go
attack?
blank.
I know,
Here we go.
right now.
We are ready.
We are ready.
Okay. This one should be familiar. What is AT? Madison,
Assistive technology.
can you tell me a little more about assistive technology?
Assistive technology is any piece of technology that helps somebody in their daily life. And like we mentioned before, it can be light tech, mid tech, or high tech. It could be paper-based tools, anything from paper-based tools to a high technology system. And yeah.
Good. I think we'll give a little round of applause.
Way to go, Maddie. You
Maddie
put
gets the
the
first
score
point.
on the board.
All right. Correct. Here's the next one. This one's crucial for schools. What does IEP stand for? Vanessa.
Individualized Education Plan or Program.
Perfect.
And so this is really the plan for students who qualify. You have to qualify to have an IEP. And then there's lots of different things, but primarily in it is where is the student presently performing, present levels of performance, and thinking about what are the goals, right? What are we trying to get the students? Where are we trying to get the students to? What do we want them to achieve? And assistive technology can be a part of that.
And what services can help support them, whether
course.
that's related services, a paraprofessional, any kind of modifications or accommodations.
And this is a really good point to mention as well, because in terms of assistive technology, we talk about devices and services, and part of the services is training. And that is what we're doing here, right? Professional development, so that it goes together, right? That again, it's not enough to have just the device, so it's the device as well as the services, and coupling those two things together.
Cool. Yeah, they
sure.
connect together. That's perfect. I'll give you a little round of applause. Oh, how's that one? Oh, sorry.
Well, I'm very upset.
I meant this one.
It's fine.
All right. This next one is probably pretty easy. This is the big one for communication. What is AAC?
All right. As I was talking a little bit about before, AAC stands for Augmentative and Alternative Communication. And this is something that's used to supplement or to aid in someone's communication if they don't use verbal speech. And as I mentioned before, we have light, mid, and high-tech AAC devices. And as Vanessa was saying before, both unaided and aided means of communication. Unaided could be gestures or manual signs, things like that. Whereas aided is those, those tools we were talking about, such as communication boards, an iPad, a dedicated device with, any kind of Windows, iOS system through any of those providers, such as Tobii Dynavox, AbleNet, PRC, etc. And yeah.
Well, I have a quick question actually. With like the iPads, the Tobii Dynavoxes, when the student presses a button, what happens?
So with the high-tech devices, when the student presses a button, it has, depending on what the button is, it will speak the message that is programmed into it, and that works for mid-tech devices as well. Whereas for a mid-tech device, you as the communication partner or someone aiding the student would have to use your voice to program that device. Alternatively, the high-tech device has pre-programmed voices that you can use. And as we'll talk more about in a future episode, they now have, Apple has a personal voice feature, which was launched in iOS 17. And this is really cool. And you can really think about the potential for maybe someone who has some verbal speech and can have that identity built into their device if they're using their own speech as the voice programmed into their high-tech device.
Good. I'll give you a little round. No wah, wah, wah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, not like me.
No trombone. I pressed the wrong button. That was my fault. I'm still getting used to this. All right. Next one. Foundational concept for creating accessible learning environments. What does UDL stand for? Vanessa.
All right. Stands for Universal Design for Learning.
Perfect.
There are 3 pillars. UDL is really a framework. So it's thinking about how are we structuring instruction, right? How are we providing information to people? So the 3 pillars are multiple means of representation, multiple means of expression, and multiple means of action demonstration.
Yeah,
That's right.
you're good.
So it's these 3 different pillars, and thinking about how are we providing students the information? And then how are they giving information back to us, right? How are they demonstrating what it is that they know? And really, this is based in inclusion. We really want students to be included in every aspect. We don't just want them physically included, right? So sometimes when people think of UDL, it was based in physical accessibility. So ramps and curb cuts, things like that, which are all very important and completely relevant. But now we're talking about it in terms of working with people and getting information to them, and then them being able to share and demonstrate what they know. So in terms of students, we want to provide them with choice. We really want them to be their own advocates, really have that agency, and thinking about how are we providing multiple means of them doing all these different things.
Good. I'll give you. All right. It's tied up 2-2.
Oh, goodness.
Oh man, I'm on
So-
the edge of my seat.
Well, you got to win. Who's going to win the first
Oh,
game?
gosh. What do we get if we win?
Bragging rights.
Okay.
A pat on the back. All right. The last one. So this is a key framework for considering assistive technology. What is SET? Ah,
All right,
Madison.
let's see if I can get this. S stands for student. E stands for environment.
Yep.
And then I'm going to mess up the order of this.
That's okay.
Tools and tasks.
Perfect. Yep,
I
that's
got
all
it.
of them.
Okay.
You got them.
The task and then the tool.
Task
Yeah.
and then the
Yep.
tools. That's what I was going to say. Okay.
It's like you go bigger than smaller.
Got
Right?
it, got it.
Student environment.
That
Well, I
makes
guess
sense.
yeah. Student environment, task, and then what tool is gonna. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a framework really when we're looking at implementing and evaluating a student for an assistive technology tool, looking at all these different things and how they make up the student's whole experience in the school, and really considering having consideration for all of the different things when we are choosing the assistive technology tool and implementing the tool. For sure.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing about this, when we've talked about this before, is the tool is last, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes people want to put the tool first,
Right.
and say, well, here's an iPad, right? Or here's a dedicated device, or here's a fill in the blank, whatever thing. But we really want to consider all the things that Maddie already said. The student, right? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? What do they like? And then the environment being a huge one. And then the tasks, like what do we want them to be able to do? So a lot of times people have that reversed. So yeah, we'll talk more about this in a future episode too.
I've seen it many times where they're like, I have this iPad. Like, let's get this. I'm like, no. We have to look at the student, right? And we have to test them and figure out what. And a lot of times, that iPad does end up being a part of the.
Absolutely.
But
Could be.
then it's also like, oh wait, but then there's this stuff on the computer we could try too, or there's a separate maybe it's even something. That they can use separately, right? So
or a different means of access to
Right.
that device.
Right.
I mean, it's so broad, but if we don't look at it in this framework of the student first,
Right.
then
Yeah.
it ends up that
Student
we
first.
may not choose
Really important.
the right thing.
So I think we should give a round of applause to Maddie.
All right.
She won the first. Well, it's the first acronym attacks, or the first segment of where we play a little game at the end of our.
Excellent.
our-
Congratulations, Maddie.
Congratulations. So I hope that helped you guys demystify some of those acronyms that are in the AT world, and you guys did a great job of explaining everything. So I felt really good. Thank you for tuning in for our first episode of TCNJ AT Talks, TCNJ Assistive Technology Talks. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcast from. And make sure you follow us on Instagram and YouTube so you can see everything in the future. And go on the atcenter.tcnj.edu if you want to send us an email or want to do a voice memo, or if you would even like some PD offerings or check out the upcoming PD offerings that you guys have.
We have a contact us form on there, so you can fill that out, and we'll reach back out to you to tell you a little bit more about our offerings and how we can go about maybe scheduling that if you're interested.
Awesome. Thanks for a great conversation today.
That was great.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap on another episode of AT Talks. A huge thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. We love making this podcast and building this community with all of you. Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. The team at the Assistive Technology Center at TCNJ is dedicated to supporting educators across New Jersey. If you were inspired by today's discussion and want to bring high-quality, free professional development to your district, Vanessa and Madison are ready to help. To learn how you can partner with the center and build capacity in your school, head over to our website. You can find all the information you need at atcenter.tcnj.edu. And while you're there, we want to hear from you. Visit the podcast tab. There you can send us a question through our Google form, or even better, leave us a voice message on SpeakPipe for us to play live on the show. Be sure to follow us on social media to stay up to date on all our latest events and resources. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube with the handle @ATCenterTCNJ. And don't forget to subscribe to AT Talks on whatever platform you're listening on right now so you never miss an episode. On behalf of Vanessa, Madison, and myself, Brian, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.